1333. Kanbalik. A teenage Korean girl steps off a tribute caravan into the largest palace on earth. She is property now, one of dozens sent every 3 years from Goryeo to serve the Yuan emperor's whims. Her name will not be recorded. Her face will never be painted. She will pour tea in the inner palace, sleep on cold floors, and vanish into footnotes. That is the plan. 27 years later, she controls 60 million people. She picks emperors, breaks kings, sends armies. Officials who cross her end up exiled, executed, or erased. Her eunuch network runs deeper than the Imperial Guard. Her tax office feeds only her. When she orders food distributed in famine, 10,000 corpses get buried. When she orders troops to Korea, rivers run red. How does a teenage palace maid seize the throat of the largest empire on the planet? And why do men with armies, with titles stretching back to Genghis Khan himself, fear the commands of a woman born in a minor Korean house? You are watching what happens when ambition meets leverage in a collapsing dynasty. And you are watching why power, once taken, never lets go. If you value documented East Asian imperial history like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you are hearing this from. Also, this script is researched and factual, using sources from the History of Royal Women article published April 17, 2020, multiple peer-reviewed journal articles on Yuan dynasty politics, including the China Channel research published June 15, 2018, and primary Ming Dynasty historical compilations, cross-referenced with Goryeo records. These sources provide documented dates, names, official positions, and verified events from palace archives and tributary state records. Now, back to the information. No birth name survives. Korean women do not get recorded that way. Her father serves in local administration, nothing exceptional. Her mother's family, the Junghung Im clan, has connections. Her maternal great-grandmother was Princess Consort Im, a woman of some standing, but this is distant. Faded glory. Not enough to change anything. The girl grows up in a household that understands power from the outside. Her father knows how tribute works, how Goryeo bends, how the Mongol Yuan dynasty, established by Kublai Khan and stretching from Korea to Hungary, dictates terms. Since 1270, Goryeo has been a client state. Mongol princesses marry Goryeo kings. 7 times this happens between 1270 and 1356. The children of these unions become kings. This is how you control a nation without occupying it. You marry into the royal line. You make the throne itself half Mongol, and you demand tribute. Every 3 years, the Goryeo king sends gifts, massive quantities, gold, silver, ginseng by the ton, hunting falcons trained for the steppe, hanji paper, smooth and strong, bolts of cloth, and people, boy eunuchs, girl concubines. Hundreds of young men and women, selected, castrated, or categorized and shipped north. The young Lady Kai grows up knowing the system. She is trained in the arts expected of aristocratic daughters: poetry, calligraphy, painting, music, dance, tea ceremony. How to move through a room without disturbing scrolls, how to speak without raising your voice, how to serve without seeming to exist. These are not skills for autonomy. These are skills for survival in a world where women are property. Beautiful property, if you are lucky. Disposable property, if you're not. And when she is in her early teens, the system comes for her. She is expendable. And in 1333, when she is approximately 18 years old, she is part of a tribute group sent to Kanbalik, the Yuan capital, present-day Beijing. The journey takes weeks, overland, through mountain passes, across rivers. The roads are watched, guarded. There is no escape. One record suggests that some tribute women tried to flee during transport. Lady Kai's mother was killed in an attempted escape. This is unconfirmed in all sources, but the trauma is documented in later retellings. What is confirmed is that Lady Kai arrives in Kanbalik against her will. She does not want to go. She does not want to be concubine material for a foreign emperor. She does not want to live in a palace where she will never see her family as a free woman again. But want does not matter. The concubines of the emperor are slaves, legal slaves. They are property of the throne. The harem is sexual servitude dressed in silk and called honor. You serve the emperor's pleasure. You bear children if you are lucky. You grow old in a back room if you are not. You do not leave. You do not refuse. You exist to be used. And at 18, Lady Kai enters this system expecting to die there. Forgotten. A footnote. Another name lost in the archives. That is the plan. That is what happens to tribute women. But she is not like the others. Daidu, the inner palace. Lady Kai is assigned to tea service. This position is strategic, not in the sense that she chose it, but in the sense that it matters. Tea service means proximity. You enter the emperor's chambers, you pour, you observe, you listen. And if you are smart, you remember everything. Lady Kai pours for Emperor Togun Temür. He is 13 years old, 5 years younger than her. He is emperor in name only. He has just survived a court massacre that makes Game of Thrones look restrained. His father, Kaisan, was likely poisoned by El Timur, the Grand Chancellor who controls the government. His older brother, Tug Timur, became emperor, then died under suspicious circumstances in 1332. His other brother, Rinchen Balkan, was made emperor at age 6 in 1332, then died within 2 months. Poisoned. Everyone knows. No one says it. El Temür, a Merkid Mongol with imperial ambitions, consolidates. He installs Togun Temür, the last surviving son, specifically because Togun Temür is young, isolated, and controllable. The boy has grown up in exile, in the provinces. He does not have factions, does not have allies. He's alone in the palace, surrounded by men who killed his family. And into this environment comes Lady Kai, a Korean tribute girl assigned to pour tea. She watches. She is described in multiple sources as extraordinarily beautiful. This matters in a harem, but more important, she is described as skilled at conversation, painting, poetry, and astronomy. These are the emperor's interests. Togun Temür, traumatized and isolated, finds in her someone who understands, who listens, who does not want something from him. Or, more accurately, who wants something but has the patience to wait. She does not seduce in the crude sense. She does not throw herself at him. She mirrors. She becomes the person he talks to, the person who shares his interests, the person who, in a palace full of assassins and schemers, feels safe. This is calculated. It has to be. Tribute women do not survive by accident. They survive by reading rooms, by understanding power, by finding the leverage point and pressing. And Lady Kai finds hers in a 13-year-old emperor who desperately needs someone who will not kill him. Most tribute women serve years as maids before being elevated, but Togun Temür is infatuated. Empress Tanashiri, the primary empress and daughter of El Timur, the man who murdered the emperor's family, notices. She orders Lady Kai beaten. This is documented. Palace beatings under the Yuan system follow a codified structure borrowed from earlier Tang and Song dynasties. Light beatings use bamboo canes, 7 to 57 strokes in steps of 10, for minor infractions. Arriving late, spilling tea, speaking out of turn. Heavy beatings use large sticks, 67 to 107 strokes. For serious offenses, disrespect, theft, suspected disloyalty, 100 heavy blows is effectively a death sentence. The skin ruptures. Infection sets in. Most die within days. Survivors are crippled. Tanashiri does not use 100 blows. That would require imperial approval. But she uses enough to send a message. Stay away from my husband. Lady Kai is beaten multiple times. The records do not specify the count, but she survives, heals, and returns to service. She does not fight back, not directly, she cannot. Tanashiri is the empress, daughter of the most powerful man in Yuan. Lady Kai is a concubine, a foreigner. She has no protection, no faction, no family here to defend her. So she waits. And in July 1335, 2 years after Lady Kai arrives, Tanashiri's brother Tankishi stages a coup. He tries to seize power, kill rivals, install himself or his sister as regent. The coup fails spectacularly. Tankishi is killed, and Tanashiri, implicated in her brother's rebellion, is executed. Forced to drink poison on July 22nd, 1335, her entire family is purged. Properties seized, allies exiled or executed. The throne is empty, and Togun Temür, now 15 years old, is free for the first time in his life. Togun Temür, now 15, tries to install Lady Kai as empress. The court explodes. Bayan of the Merkid, who controls the military, opposes it. The Empress Dowager opposes it. No Korean woman has ever held the title. Empresses come from Mongol clans, the Kongerad, the Borjigan, not from tribute states, not from palace maids. The backlash forces Togun Temür to back down. He marries Bayan Kutug, a Mongol noblewoman, to satisfy the court. Lady Kai is secondary, always secondary, but in 1338 she gives birth to a son, Ayu Shiridara, the emperor's only surviving male heir. Bayan Kutug's son dies young, and in 1340, when Lady Ki is 25, she is named secondary empress, not primary, not equal. But empress, with a title, with a residence, Hongsong Palace, and with access. He proposes killing all Chinese with the surnames Zhang, Wang, Liu, Li, and Zhao. This is not rhetoric. He issues decrees. He is consolidating. And Togun Temür, now 20, is terrified of him. Bayan executed King Damsaldak without imperial permission. He holds power like it is his by right. The emperor is a seal stamp, but Bayan has made enemies. His own nephew, Toktoa, along with officials named Jiawatais and Seraphan, overthrow him in the same year. 1340. Bayan is demoted, stripped of rank, exiled to the periphery. He vanishes from records. And Togon Temur, for the first time, has breathing room. He does not waste it. The Empress Dowager Budashiri managed an office called the Huizhongwan, the Office of Personnel and Administration for the Inner Palace. It controls appointments, salaries, access. Budashiri is powerful. Togon Timur deposes and exiles her, also in 1340, and he gives the Huizhongwan to Lady Kai, later renamed the Zhejiang Yuan. She now manages the imperial household's finances. She appoints officials. She controls who gets paid, who eats, who has access to the emperor. This is not ceremonial. This is infrastructure. And Lady Kai uses it like a weapon. Assigned to palace service, he arrives around the same year as Lady Kai, 1333. Sources suggest they are close friends, possibly childhood acquaintances from Hengju or nearby regions in Goryeo. When Lady Kai becomes secondary empress in 1340, Park Bulwa is transferred from general eunuch service to a specific posting. He serves her son Ayushiridara at Xingsheng Palace. Officially, he is the prince's attendant. Unofficially, he is Lady Ki's eyes, her hands, her extension into every corner of the palace that she cannot reach herself, and then she moves him up rapidly. By 1350, Park Bulwa holds the position of Tongji Shumiyuanshi. This office carries authority over Yuan military units. It is a rank normally reserved for Mongol military aristocracy or Han Chinese generals with decades of battlefield experience. Park Bulwa is Korean, a eunuch. He has no military background. He has Lady Kai. That is enough. Then she elevates him again, Ronglu Daifu Zhejiang Yuanshi. A financial and administrative rank, he is given the Mongolian name Buka. This is symbolic. Mongols do not give names to foreigners lightly. It signals acceptance, integration, that he is functionally Mongol now. Except he is not. He is Korean. He answers to a Korean-born empress. And everyone knows it. He manages the Zhejiang Yuan office after Lady Ki renames it from Huizhongwan. This office controls palace expenditures, salaries, appointments, who gets paid, who eats, who has access to imperial funds. Park Bulwa uses it like a weapon. Officials who support Lady Kai find their salaries increased, their families granted stipends, their children placed in favorable posts. Officials who oppose her find their payments delayed, their requests denied, their subordinates reassigned. Nothing dramatic, nothing provable. Just slow, grinding pressure until they comply or leave. He also interferes directly with civil and military appointments. A governor in Sichuan opposes increased taxes for Lady Kai's personal bureau. The governor finds himself transferred to the northern frontier, cold, dangerous, far from his family. A general questions the wisdom of military appointments based on eunuch recommendations. That general loses command of his troops. They are reassigned to a rival. The rival, coincidentally, has a cousin in Lady Kai's household. These patterns repeat, over and over, for 2 decades. Park Bulwa becomes the most feared eunuch in Yuan, not because he kills. There are no mass executions tied to his name, but because he isolates, he removes. He makes you irrelevant, and in a palace where relevance is survival, this is death. Slow, quiet, permanent. Officials notice, and they learn. You do not cross Lady Kai, because Park Bulwa is always watching. By the late 1340s, Lady Kai effectively rules Yuan. The emperor has lost interest in governance. Sources describe him turning to wine, women, and tantric rituals. He builds mechanical clocks, studies astronomy, commissions elaborate water mechanisms. He does not attend council, does not review petitions. Lady Kai does. She reads the women's book of filial piety. She studies past empresses, Empress Wu Zetian of Tang, Empress Lu of Han. Women who ruled through proxies, through sons, through sheer refusal to let men take what they had built. She learns, and she applies. He argues that reducing her position is the only way to end the calamities. This is not superstition. This is code. Imperial women who wield too much power are blamed for cosmic imbalance. It is how you attack without accusing directly. The censor is silenced. The records do not say how. But he vanishes from court. Lady Kai does not. She has a special office now, a tax bureau that feeds her personal accounts. She spends lavishly, palaces, luxury goods, gifts to allies, but also, crucially, on popular support. 1358, famine strikes Daidu, crop failure. Disease spreads in the capital. People are dying in the streets. Lady Kai orders her officials to distribute porridge to the hungry. She uses her personal funds to bury over 10,000 corpses. She hires monks to perform funeral services. This is documented in multiple sources. 10,000 corpses. That number is not symbolic. that is mass death. And her intervention is visible, public. People remember. When the dynasty falls, they will remember she fed them while the emperor built clocks. This is power maintenance. She is building a constituency that has nothing to do with the court. Officials may hate her, Mongol nobles may fear her, but the people eat because of her, and that creates leverage. Goryeo, her homeland. Lady Kai never returns, but she never stops watching. Her father Ki Ja-o is posthumously made a king. Her mother is granted official visits to Daidu, receives honors from the Goryeo king himself. Her brothers ascend. Ki Chol, the eldest, is appointed commander of the Mongol Eastern Field headquarters. This makes him the de facto ruler of Goryeo. More powerful than the Goryeo king. He manages the Liaoyang branch secretariat in 1353. Another brother becomes minister of the left and grand minister of education. The Ki family dominates, and they abuse it. Sources from the history of Goryeo, compiled during the Joseon dynasty, describe the Ki clan as ambitious and pleasure-seeking. They steal property, seize slaves from other aristocrats. They act as if they are above the law, because, functionally, they are. They are backed by the empress who controls the Yuan court. King Gongmin, who ascends the Goryeo throne in 1352, grows up in the Yuan court. He marries a Yuan princess, Noguk, in 1349. He knows how the system works, and he hates it. He wants reform. He wants independence, and he sees the Ki family as the chain around Goryeo's neck. 1351. Her younger brother Ki Sanman is accused of abusing his influence. The Goryeo court executes him. Lady Ki is furious, but she's also pragmatic. Gongmin sends gifts. Promotes her brother Ki Cheol. He's trying to smooth things over, maintain the relationship. It works, temporarily. Then, in 1356, Gongmin moves. He invites Ki Cheol and his supporters to a banquet, and he massacres them, all of them, Ki Cheol, his brothers, their closest allies. Exterminated. Gongmin declares Goryeo independent of the Yuan. This is not symbolic. This is a purge backed by military force. The Kai family is wiped out in a single night, and Lady Kai, in Daidu, learns her entire family is dead. She does not mourn publicly. She does not weep in court. She acts. Within months of receiving news of the massacre, she names a new Goryeo king, Tash Timur, also known by his Korean title, Daeokunggun. He is a member of the Goryeo royal family, a nephew of a previous king, someone with a claim. Someone pliable, someone who will owe everything to Yuan, to her. She issues decrees through the imperial court recognizing him as the legitimate king of Goryeo. King Gongmin is declared a rebel, a usurper, an enemy of the Yuan dynasty, and then she mobilizes. December 1363. 7 years after her family was slaughtered. She sends her son, Crown Prince Ayu Shiridara, now 24 years old and heir to the Yuan throne, to lead an army into Goryeo. 10,000 troops. This is a substantial force. Not enough to conquer Goryeo outright, but enough to install a puppet king if resistance is light. Yuan cavalry, infantry, siege equipment, supply trains. This is a military invasion ordered by a Korean-born empress against her own homeland. The justification is clear in Yuan records. Restore legitimate rule. Punish rebels. Re-establish tributary relations. The subtext is equally clear. Revenge. The army marches south, toward the Yalu River. The border between Mongol-controlled Liaodong and Goryeo proper. Crossing the Yalu is symbolic. It is where invasions begin, where Mongol armies crossed in the 1230s during the initial conquest of Korea. But King Gongmin is ready. He has anticipated this, has prepared. His generals, Choi Yong and Yi Seong-ge, both experienced in frontier warfare, position their forces at strategic crossings. They have advantages, knowledge of terrain, supply lines that do not stretch hundreds of miles, local support, and motivation. They are defending their homeland from foreign invasion, even if that invasion is led by a Korean woman and her Mongol son. The battle is not recorded in detail. But the outcome is, the Yuan forces are defeated, decisively. They fail to cross the Yalu in force. Casualties are unknown but implied to be significant. Ayu Shiridara retreats. The puppet king Tash Timur is not installed. Goryeo remains independent under King Gongmin. And Lady Kai in Daidu learns that her 10,000 troops have failed. Her son has been repelled. Her attempt to restore her family's power in Korea has ended in military defeat. This failure has consequences, not just strategically, but politically. Officials in Yuan now know that she will invade sovereign states for personal reasons, that she will use the imperial army as her private revenge force, that she prioritizes family over dynasty, and that her reach, while vast, has limits. She can control appointments in Daidu. She can place eunuchs in military posts. She can manage finances. But she cannot win a war in Korea. not against a determined king with competent generals and popular support. The invasion of 1363 becomes, in Korean historiography, the ultimate proof of her betrayal. She sent an army, 10,000 men, to conquer the land of her birth, to kill Koreans, to install a puppet, because a king had killed her brothers for acting like tyrants. The history of Goryeo, compiled during the Joseon dynasty, which replaces Goryeo in 1392, lists the Ki family in the traitor section. Entire pages document their abuses, the property they stole, the aristocrats they ruined, the slaves they seized, the arrogance, the corruption. And then it documents her response, the invasion, the attempt to overthrow a legitimate king. This is not ambiguous, this is treason. And in Korea, her name becomes synonymous with betrayal. For 6 centuries, Korean historians will use her as the example of what happens when personal ambition overrides national loyalty, when family power corrupts absolutely, when a Korean woman chooses a Mongol empire over her homeland. Both narratives are true. Her family did abuse power. King Gongmin did massacre them at a banquet without trial. She did send an army to invade. That army did fail. But when officials in Yuan, watching all of this, learn the most important lesson. She does not forgive, she does not forget, and she will burn the world to protect her position. 1353, her son Ayushiridara is designated crown prince, heir to the Yuan throne. This is the goal. Everything she has built points here. If her son becomes emperor, she becomes empress dowager, untouchable, the most powerful position in the dynasty. But there is a problem. Togun Temur knows what she is doing. Using Park Bulhwa, she begins a campaign to force the emperor to abdicate in favor of Ayushiridara, early. While Togun Temur is still alive, this is treason, or it would be if anyone could prove intent. She does not say it openly, she plants officials. Spreads rumors, uses eunuchs to whisper in the emperor's ear. She is trying to retire him while he is still breathing. Togun Temur, passive in governance, is not passive about this. He grows apart from her, stops consulting her. The relationship fractures. She is overplayed. For the first time, she is pushed too hard, and the emperor, weak as he is, draws a line. She cannot force him off the throne, not yet, but she has created a faction. Officials loyal to the crown prince and officials loyal to the emperor. The court splits, and the fracture runs deep. 1360. Arjay Temur, a descendant of Ogadei Khan, second son of Genghis, rebels. He claims the throne, he has lineage, he has supporters. Yuan is fracturing. 1364. Bolud Temur, father of the primary empress Bayan Kutug, occupies Daidu. The capital falls, Ayushiridara escapes. Flees to Kuka Temur, a Han Chinese warlord who supports the crown prince faction. But Lady Kai does not escape. She is captured, imprisoned by Bolud Temur for 100 days. He forges letters in her name, throws her out of her palace. This is humiliation. She, who controlled appointments, finances, military posts, is locked in a cell for 3 months. Bolud Temur is killed the next year, 1365, by Kuka Temur, who retakes Daidu. Lady Kai is freed, and she tries again. With Kuka Temur's support, she pushes to install Ayushiridara as emperor. Togun Temur is still alive, still officially ruling, but the dynasty is collapsing. Rebellions everywhere. Zhu Yunzhang, a former Buddhist monk turned warlord, is taking southern China piece by piece. The Red Turban Rebellion is spreading, famine, plague, banditry. The mandate of heaven is slipping, and Lady Kai is still trying to make her son emperor. She fails. Togun Temur refuses, but in December 1365, Bayan Kutug dies, the primary empress. And Lady Kai, at 50 years old, is elevated, primary empress. For 3 years, she holds the title she has fought for since 1335, 30 years, from tribute maid to empress. But it is 30 years too late. The dynasty is gone. Zhu Yuanzhang founds the Ming dynasty. He takes Nanjing, then Daidu. The Yuan court flees north. Empress Ki, Emperor Togun Temur, and Crown Prince Ayushiridara retreat to Yingchang, near Lake Tal Nor in present-day Inner Mongolia. They establish the Northern Yuan, a government in exile. But it is a shell. May 30th, 1370. Togun Temur dies of dysentery. Ayushiridara becomes Khan of the Mongols, and Empress Kai becomes Empress Dowager. Finally, the title she has maneuvered toward for decades. But there is no empire, just remnants, scattered tribes, a memory of power. 1370 or 1369, sources conflict. Empress Kai goes missing, no records of her death, no tomb, no memorial. She simply vanishes. Some sources say she was captured by the Ming, others say she fled with her son deeper into Mongolia. Others say she died in Yingchang before Togun Temur. The Ming Dynasty writes the history of Yuan. They blame her for the dynasty's collapse, corruption, extravagance, a foreign woman who poisoned the court. The Joseon Dynasty, which replaces Goryeo in 1392, writes the history of Goryeo. They call her family traitors, ambitious, pleasure-seeking. They list Kicheol in the traitor section. They document the abuses, the stolen land, the murdered rivals. Both dynasties have incentive to destroy her reputation. The Ming needs to justify their conquest. The Joseon needs to distance themselves from the Yuan period. And Empress Kai, who invaded her own country, who tried to depose an emperor, who controlled 60 million people from a position she was never supposed to hold, becomes the scapegoat, the corrupting foreign influence, the woman who should have stayed in her place. 1333 to 1368, 35 years. She enters as tribute. She exits as Empress Dowager of a fallen dynasty. In between, she controls the Huizhongyuan, appoints officials, places her eunuch Park Bulwa in military command, elevates her family to rule Korea. Distributes food in famine, buries 10,000 corpses, invades her homeland with 10,000 troops, tries to force an emperor off his throne, survives imprisonment, outlasts rivals, becomes primary empress at 50. She does all of this without an army of her own, without noble blood, without a Mongol name that means anything. She does it with proximity, with patience, with leverage. She pours tea for a 13-year-old emperor and never lets go. Every promotion is a transaction. Every alliance is insurance. Every act of generosity is a deposit. When famine strikes, she feeds the city. When officials oppose her, Park Bulwa removes them. When her family is slaughtered, she sends an army. She does not rule like an empress. She rules like a survivor who knows the system will kill her the moment she stops being useful. And the system tries. Tanashiri beats her. Bayan opposes her. The censor blames her for earthquakes. Balud Tamer imprisons her. Togun Tamer grows cold. King Gongmin extirpates her family. And she survives all of it. Not because she is beloved, because she is necessary. Because she has built a network deeper than any single rival can cut. Eunuchs, officials, warlords, generals, monks. She has pieces everywhere. And when you try to remove one, 3 others move to block you. The sources do not describe purges on her orders. They describe interference, appointments, removals. Officials who oppose her lose posts. They do not lose heads, not directly, but they lose everything that makes them powerful. A general who crosses her finds his troops reassigned. A minister who questions her authority finds himself stationed at the frontier. An official who accuses her of corruption finds his patron exiled. She does not kill, she isolates. And isolation in an imperial court is death, slowly, quietly. You wake up one day and realize no one will meet your eyes. Your recommendations are ignored. Your dispatches go unanswered. Your family stops receiving invitations. And when you finally understand what has happened, you are already gone. This is why they fear her. Not the sword, the silence. The realization that she has more pieces on the board than you knew existed. That the eunuch who serves your tea reports to Park Bulwa. That the clerk who files your reports is on her payroll. That the general you thought was your ally has a brother in her household. You cannot fight what you cannot see, and by the time you see it, you are already removed. She is beaten as a concubine in 1335. She is Empress Dowager in 1370. That arc does not happen by accident. It happens because she understands leverage. She understands that power in a palace is not about force. It is about information, about knowing who owes whom. Who fears whom? Who wants what? She listens when she pours tea. She remembers when officials speak carelessly. She files everything away. And when the moment comes, she uses it. A favor here, a reminder there, a whispered word to the emperor about a general's loyalty. Nothing direct. Nothing that leaves evidence. Just the slow accumulation of pressure until the target moves or breaks. Learned governance from books because no one taught her. 2, she was politically ruthless. She invaded her homeland, tried to depose an emperor, used eunuchs to manipulate military appointments, built a personal tax office to fund her network. 3, she was generous to the people. Fed them in famine, buried their dead, sponsored Buddhism, promoted Korean culture in China. All 3 are true. She is not a villain. She is not a hero. She is a woman born into a system designed to erase her, who refused to be erased, and who broke every rule to survive. And officials feared her because she proved that power does not care about your bloodline. It cares about your leverage, about what you control, about who needs you alive. Empress Kai controlled access to the emperor, controlled palace finances, controlled appointments, controlled a eunuch network that stretched from Daidu to the Mongolian frontier. She controlled the heir to the throne. She controlled public opinion through famine relief, and when the dynasty collapsed, she controlled the narrative of her own survival long enough to become Empress Dowager. That is why they feared her. because she was a tribute maid who should have poured tea and died forgotten, and instead, she ruled an empire. The Joseon histories call her family traitors. Both dynasties need her to be the villain. But in Hangzhou, near the fortress where General Quan Yul defeated Japanese invaders in 1593, there is a small monument, a crude structure, a spring that never runs dry. A turtle-shaped stone memorial, the birthplace of the Hangzhou Ki clan. The Goyang City Tourism Department does not mention it. No pamphlets, no guides. Korean television dramas revived interest in her story. Empress Ki aired in 2013 through 2014, 51 episodes. Ha Ji-won played her as a warrior, a patriot, a woman torn between two nations. Historians criticized the drama for being too sympathetic. University professors worried it would build a positive image, but the ratings were massive, 33.9% peak viewership. People wanted to know about the Korean girl who became Empress of China, who ruled 60 million people, who tried to conquer her homeland, who buried 10,000 corpses and sent 10,000 troops, who feared no one and was feared by everyone. It is a spring in Hangzhou, water flowing from stone, a monument no one visits, the birthplace of a girl whose name was not recorded, who was sent as tribute at 18, who became empress at 50, and who vanished at 54. 36 years, 1333 to 1369. From palace maid to empress dowager, from Korea to China to Mongolia to nowhere. The spring still flows. The officials who feared her are dust. The dynasty she ruled is gone. The empire she tried to pass to her son collapsed within a generation, but the water still runs, and the story remains. Not the drama version, not the villain version, the documented version. The version where a girl with no name, no power, and no chance looked at the largest empire on earth and decided she would take it. And she did. For 35 years, she held the throat of Yuan. And every official who thought he could remove her learned the same lesson. You do not remove Empress Kai. You survive her, if you are lucky, and most were not.